Welcome to News Talk 98.9, WORD's exclusive South Carolina Governor Series.
Powered by Gosling Electric.
An in-depth free-flow conversation with the leading candidates. Here are your hosts, Charlie James and Joey Hudson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charlie James, and this is the News Talk 98.9 WORD Governor Series. I'm being joined by Joey Hudson and our guest of honor for this next hour, Rom Reddy, businessman Rom Reddy, who is running for governor of South Carolina. It's all being brought to you by Gosling Electrical Services. Mr. Reddy, you start off big story over the past few days, redistricting, big issue right now that's being debated in the Senate. What is your take on redistricting in South Carolina, and do you see any potential pitfalls?
Look, redistricting on a partisan basis is allowed, and I am all for it to the extent that we can do it correctly. My concern here is that we are asking the arsonists to put out the fire. Mm-hmm. Just think what happened when this guy won the Democratic seat in District 1. What was his name? I forgot his name. Cunningham, yeah. They said, oops, how did that happen? So they took a portion of downtown Charleston, a portion of West Ashley, and put it in District 6. Mm-hmm. And then they did the same with District 2. They took portions of Columbia, put it in District 6. So these guys created the problem. Now we're asking them to solve the problem. Whether they solve this problem in any good fashion, I have no idea. Just, Charlie, just looking at what they've done with government, my confidence level is low. These people have no idea how to make things work. And so I really say it's like the arsonist putting out the fire. Other than that concern, I do not have an issue saying that if we are a supermajority state, we are allowed, constitutionally, allowed to redistrict on a partisan basis. We're not allowed on a racial basis, but we are allowed on a partisan basis, so I'm supportive of it.
Yeah. You've been very successful in the business world. Why now? What made you decide to run for governor at this point in time?
Renee keeps asking me that as well, my wife, but I didn't want to do it. I was ready to back someone running for governor. I waited. There was some rumor that your guy from here,
John
Warren was going to run.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, maybe if he runs, I'll back him. But then I looked at this field, Joey. 5 politicians, 53 years in government. And what have they done in these 53 years? For your viewers and your listeners, has anything changed with education? No, bottom 10. Roads, in 10 years, bottom 5. Median family income, bottom 8. Violent crime, top 10. But congratulations, we're very proud. We now are the highest income tax Republican-led state in the nation, not in the Southeast, in the nation. And property taxes are a life sentence. So in the private sector, in my businesses, companies I bought or built, if you tell management, listen, your spending has doubled, you have no results, leadership is fired. Here, they want a promotion. I've never heard of anything like this. Have you ever heard of anything like this?
No.
I've never heard of anything like this. So they want a promotion. So when I saw that, I said, we got to get into this thing. These people will never fix this problem. Never.
Yeah. In one of your social media posts, you referenced the Columbia Cabal. What is the Columbia Cabal, and who is part of it?
I can't recall what posted on, but I was probably referencing the corruption that has permeated Columbia. And you say, why? Why is it this corruption has permeated Columbia? Well, we are 40 out of 50 in campaign disclosure laws. 40 out of 50 in campaign disclosure laws. So guess what happens? Now, the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot restrain 501c4s and political advocacy groups from donating unlimited amounts. But they said it's up to the states to say what the disclosure rule should be and how they coordinate between PAC and campaigns. They're not supposed to coordinate. South Carolina has no disclosure rules. They're not required disclosure. So I used to do this, Charlie, in college. It's called blind date.
Right.
This is like a blind date. You go vote for these folks. in November or whenever, and you have no idea who bought and paid for them. None. Zero. That's how we have a legislature that's 31% trial lawyers, when less than 1% of the working population is trial lawyers. There is so much of dark money. $7 million as of last week that has come into the gubernatorial race. $7 million of dark money. You can't tell where it's come from. And it's going through all of these campaigns. So what happens now is that you've got a system where these guys have to go into this election, they're bought and paid for, and their priorities are the donor priorities or the special interests. The citizen gets nothing. I just went over the statistics. Citizen got nothing. Donors, we have something in South Carolina very special. Charlie, you've never heard of this before. It's called DFD, not DEI, DFD, Deals for Donors. Okay?
Right.
They said they had a beautiful building in downtown Columbia for these agencies, DHAC, DHS, when they split them up. They said, well, that building looks depressing, the carpet's bad, the lighting is not good. And so they decided they're going to move them out and move them into leased buildings outside of Columbia, $500 million over 20 years from the biggest donor to the Republican Party. These people, you can't make up this stuff. They don't like two men on the truck. You and I probably use two men on the truck, right? They don't like that. They had $37.1 million to move them. Well, you can't make up this stuff.
Yeah. A big part of your message is that government, to a degree, has been weaponized against the citizens. You talk about these people. Tell us about these people. Who are these people? And give us some examples of how they are weaponized against the people of the Palmetto State.
Can I back up a little bit? Because
Sure.
to understand that, you got to back up.
Sure.
So if you read the second paragraph of the Declaration, it says we're endowed by a Creator with certain unalienable rights, means our rights come from God. The very next sentence says government derives its power from the consent of the governed, which means that we take some of that power, we give it to government to protect those God-given rights. Now, that started to shift, in all fairness, in the Woodrow Wilson era. I think he was the 28th president. And Woodrow Wilson actually said this. He said Americans are stupid, selfish, and incapable of self-governing, and they need an administrative state. So that's how the fourth unelected branch of government is born. South Carolina has taken this thing and put it on steroids. We have 101 agencies. These agencies believe their job is to go after the citizen. Mm-hmm. You go into family court. I don't know if you guys have been in family court. It is state-sanctioned criminal extortion enterprise. That's what it is. The most corrupt agency in this state is DSS, no doubt about it. By the way, they're so corrupt that we increased their budget from $121 million in 2017 under the vet, you guys should have asked her the question, to $333 million this year. Mm-hmm. But the most corrupt agency, combined with guardian ad litems, lawyer legislatures, marriage counselors, they are destroying parents. People, you go in there and it's like staring tyranny in the eyeballs. The whole system, Charlie, these systems I'm talking about, I'm going to tell you something. I have fixed businesses my whole life. I have built businesses my whole life. I looked at them and I said, yep, we can fix that. No, South Carolina cannot be fixed. It needs to be shrunk and rebooted. It literally needs to be shrunk and rebooted. We can't fix what we got. So these government now goes after the citizen. Mm-hmm. I don't understand this. I don't understand how we have deviated in 250 years from where we started.
Yeah. You know, all the candidates that are running for governor are talking about the problems that we have here in South Carolina, and these problems have been going on for decades. What's the source of the problem, and what is the source of the division in Columbia?
Well, you say the source of the problem. The source of the problem really is part of the problem, what we already talked about. The money coming in and the donor and special interests essentially dominating the agenda. Mm-hmm. So what do we do with this is, Charlie, the number one thing I'll tell you is this. Whenever I've run businesses, the first thing we do when we go in and buy a business, we say, what does leadership look like? They're out there doing their PowerPoint presentations. I'm watching the president or the CEO, and I'm saying, can this guy lead, right? And so you have to look at leadership, and then you have to look at governance. How are you going to govern? Governance is like a conduit and a pipe. Without a conduit, you shove the wires, they go all over the place, right? You got to shove it through it. You got to put it through a conduit. We have no leadership. Can you name who the leader of the state is? Who is the leader of the state?
Some people say it's the governor. Some people say it's the Speaker of the House.
So that's what I said. There is no leader.
That's right.
There is no leader. So this is like a big Mormon family where the parents are passed out on the couch and the different kids take over every day trying to figure out what's going to happen. It's total chaos. There's no leadership. So there's total confusion over there. I mean, utter and total confusion. You can't have leadership. Then you don't have governance. I don't know if any of you have run businesses, but your listeners or viewers who have run businesses, they know. You have a staff meeting once a week. You have some goals. You said, these are our goals. How'd you do last week? What'd you do this week? Why haven't you made any progress? Nothing. We have no cabinet. They don't meet. I met a senator the other day. I won't remain unnamed. He's been there for 5 years. Said, how many times have you met with the governor? He says, once. I said, you mean once a year? He says, no, once in 5 years. So I say what we're doing right now, our campaign and everything else, people try to put it in blocks, right? This is not black versus white, man versus woman, conservative versus something else. This is citizen against a broken system. If we don't fix this system, if we don't reverse what's going on here very quickly, we're going to kick it down the road to the next generation, and we may forever lose this state. I think with Kamala and whatever the auto pen over there in federal government, we came very close to that, but it was very obvious, right? Unless you double down on stupid, you could see. Here, it's hidden. But it's a very bad situation right now that I think the citizens are beginning to wake up and see this stuff. We're going to fix it.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said a minute ago about state government being broken to the point that you believe it just needs to be torn down and rebuilt.
Yeah.
Talk with us about what that looks like. I mean, how many agencies do you believe we should have in our state government?
This is really a great question. And first of all, I want to tell you, viewers and listeners, we're the only ones that put together a 12-page newspaper. We mailed it to many, many people. And you can get it on our website, reddy.com. You go to the policy tab, there's a PDF, you can download it. And it actually tells you not only what we're going to do, but how we're going to do it. To your question, we have this, we have it in the document, 101 agencies going to 35. We have 17 public safety agencies, we need 2. We have, I don't know, 19 or 20 of these education agencies. I say we need to. Some of the people I work with say we need 3. Fine, we'll give them 3. Are you guys okay with 3? Okay. It's better than 19 or 20, I think, right? So, so we've got this down to 35 agencies. We got all these boards and commissions. I have to have some horror stories to tell you guys. You know, our higher education spending, by the way, I hope you guys are benefiting from it, went from $700 million in 2017, 900 million in 2019, 1.8 billion today. Who are we educating? It's going to all these administrators. People say, oh, it's woke. Why is it woke? Because we're funding it.
Right.
And so you got all this crazy stuff going on, but then guess what they did? You can't make this stuff up. They said, we need an oversight board to take care of this higher education. $100 million a year for the oversight board. And then someone said, well, we don't like this higher education. How about a technical education? Oh, we got you covered there. We got a state board for technical and comprehensive education with a $265 million budget. Charlie, I'm going to tell your listeners something. We're addicted to opium. People say, opium, you're accusing all these people in Colombia of being druggies. I said, no. OPM, other people's money. These people are addicted to it. We've got to remove this addiction. There's no other way. You just got to remove that money, take it out of there.
Yeah. Okay, well, we know that the governor's office here in South Carolina, the executive branch, is a weak executive branch. What tools would you use to fight bad legislation, and how would you promote good legislation?
See, this is what, Charlie, all of us have been programmed with this thing, right? You know, it goes back, they say, and I just say things, so some of these things people don't like me being that direct. You know, say, oh, it's weak. Why is it weak? Because we said if there's ever a black governor, he's not going to have any power.
Right.
This is all BS, okay? Because go back and read the Federalist Papers. Go back and read what they wrote, what James Madison wrote. The entire system, the entire American system is set up on 3 co-equal branches to hold each other in check, where government holds their power in check, and we are a free people. This is how we came to this country from so many different countries, and what we put together here is more than the sum of the parts, because we built the greatest, freest, wealthiest nation in the world. We did it because we are free, government was in check. That was the whole basis. And part of the foundational principle was each branch is supposed to prevent encroachment from the other branch. And so people make up this hogwash about South Carolina. So you go to Article 4 of the South Carolina Constitution, it says the governor is the supreme executive authority in the state. Act like it. The governor has veto power, but apparently in a supermajority state, he can get 1/3 of the House or 1/3 of the Senate. It's not and, or 1/3 of the Senate to support his veto. This is not a failure of the system. This is back to the same problem, a failure of leadership. There is no leadership. And so obviously we're going to have to take charge of that. And then we're going to do something simple. The president is doing it in Washington, D.C., right? In D.C., what is he doing? Beyond all the foreign policy stuff, he's asserting Article 2 authority. He's saying, you will not encroach on executive authority. So he's actually letting them challenge it in the courts. 80% of the time he's winning. So we're going to make it very simple. I'm going to come to you guys. You're on some board in the executive branch. I'm going to say you're fired. They're going to say you can't fire me because I was appointed by the legislature. I said I just fired you because you're part of the executive branch. Go challenge it in court. And we'll have the best set of constitutional lawyers. Unfortunately, Charlie, they're going to have to be from out of the state because the lawyers in the state are also corrupt.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a mess, Charlie. I'm telling you, we have to unwind the swamp. I tell people, this is the only opportunity in this generation you're going to have to throw a grenade in the swamp and see what crawls up. No one has ever run a statewide race like I am without taking a single dollar, and no one will, I don't think, in our generation. It's too expensive and too difficult.
Yeah. Of course, Governor McMaster is term limited, so it's opened this race up. It's a very crowded field, not only on the Republican side, but the Democrat side as well. Why do you think South Carolina is ready for a Rom ready? What separates you from the others?
Well, that's what the people are saying, so I said I was going to give you some breaking news. Signal, the largest Republican polling firm in the nation, also pollsters for Governor Kemp, Governor Abbott, and for Trump 2020, just put out the poll. People are going to be shocked. 18.8% Alan Wilson. In second place at 16% is Mr. Rom Reddy. How about that? The people are speaking up. And in your area, in Greenville, Spartanburg, we almost have a 10-point lead over the second place person. The most conservative part of the state recognizes this, and they recognize that all these other people, Ralph Norman, who's an anti-Trumper, supported Nikki Haley against the president. When I was actually in Greenville meeting with the president, I donated $1 million. Scott Besson and I were the only two that donated $1 million to the president. He was supporting Nikki while she was calling him names and stood by her. So there's one anti-Trumper. Then you got Nancy Mace, the other anti-Trumper, taking money from the Rand Paul PAC. So you got all these anti-Trumpers up here. No wonder the Greenville, Spartanburg people are saying, geez, find us someone who actually agrees with our values. We got a massive lead in Greenville, Spartanburg. This is going to shake things up. We haven't released it. We are now within shouting distance of taking Alan Wilson over in second place.
So we have some breaking news here, Charlie.
Yeah, we
with
are
the release
breaking
of
news
this.
right now with this new signal poll that came in. You went from 0% in January.
We hadn't entered the race.
April 6%, May 9%, and then you jumped up in here this month to 16%. How were you able to do that? I mean, nobody had even heard of you before, and now you're in second place according to Signal.
I think two things happened that we did very, very differently. One is we didn't do all these forums. This is all BS, right? They go out there with their consultants giving them one-liners. I have no consultant who tells me what to say. I tell people what I tell Renee around the dinner table, right? And so I do solo events. I was shocked, actually. Yesterday we did a solo event in Greenville at the Marriott. We thought 100, 110 people show up, which is a good crowd. 200 showed up. 200 people for a solo event. Never happened, I don't think, for anyone on this campaign. The people are fed up. The people are coming out in droves. Same thing with Anderson Pickens. They had a forum. I said, I'm not going. I don't do forums. They said, well, we can try to have a solo event, but you're not likely to get a lot of people. They said as of last night, they had 150 RSVPs. It's unbelievable what's happening. It's like Trump 2016. It literally is like Trump. By the way, I do have a lot of similarities to the president because he and I and Elon Musk all went to the Wharton Business School, and we've been in the private sector. I've never run for dog catcher before this. So this is our first rodeo. But we know how to win, and we know how to get things done. We will get results. There's 8 specific things I said in my document we're going to get done. I said if I don't, I won't run again. There you go. How about that for a so-called citizen politician?
So what do you think? What is the one thing when you go to these private events? What's the one thing that you believe is really connecting with the voter right now?
I think first of all, telling the voter the truth. I just speak to them like I speak to my family, right? I just tell them the truth. I don't BS them. If they ask me a question I don't know the answer, I said, I have no idea. I have no idea what the answer is. And more importantly, I listen to them. I listen to these stories, what these agencies are doing to them, what family court is doing, probate court. Oh my gosh, that's another disaster. I listen to them. And for those that don't listen, that I haven't heard their personal stories, I hear them. They know that I will be the voice for the voiceless. I will not let them down because I don't have special interests. I can't be bought. I cannot be bought. This is a unique situation, and they know it.
All right. Well, we are going to continue our conversation with Ram Reddy, who is running for governor of South Carolina. We will be right back in just a couple of minutes. This is the WRD Governor's Forum brought to you by Gosling Electrical Service. I'm Charlie James along with Joey Hudson. We'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9 WORD's Governor Series
Powered by Gosling Electric.
continues right after this short break.
And welcome back to the Governor Series right here on News Talk 98.9 WORD. I'm Charlie James, joined by Joey Hudson and
Stay
Ron Reddy,
informed.
who is running for the governor of South Carolina. Joey?
You have pledged not to take campaign donations. Now, that's a bit unusual in modern politics. Talk with us about that decision, and do you think that you can compete with the other campaigns who have all this money flowing from other organizations and people?
That was a tough decision, not just for me, but for my family as well, because my consultant said, take money from individuals because they're not packing. Mm-hmm. But I said, no. The first thing I got to do if I get elected, I should say when I get elected, the first thing I need to do is reform this campaign transparency. We have to have full disclosure. We cannot have it where citizens have no idea where this money is coming from. And I said, I lose the moral high ground if I take any money at all. So you're right. For the first time ever, I accept no donations from anyone. You can look at our disclosure reports. They basically say zero. But I love the narrative. I saw this guy came on your show, not your show, Tara's show, and Adam Morgan, not a good guy, by the way. But he comes over there and he says, I'm a plant. He says, I'm a plant for the establishment. Really? What type of plant? What type of an idiot would I have to be to plant myself with my own money? Typically, if you're a plant, someone is paying you, right, to be the plant. No one pays me. They are so used to people being bought, they can't even think straight now. And so more stuff is going to happen as this happens. We're going to have to spend a lot more money because now when this poll goes out, they'll start taking shots at me. They obviously must have known something because they've been sending anonymous texts out about me and doing all this crazy stuff. But you know what? It is what it is. I think on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, we are going to fight. You know, the last sentence of the Declaration is very, very profound. It simply says, we mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor to defending the principles in this declaration. 250 years later, we need to have the courage to do that. Yeah. And that's what we're going to do.
How much do you plan to spend?
I think by the time this is said and done, this is going to be a $10 million plus in that range. Yeah. So depends on what happens in the runoff or whatever, but it'll probably be in that range. Yeah. And I'm at a disadvantage because every candidate, every one of them, all 5 of them, have this secret PAC money coming. Pamela has a ton of PAC money coming, all of which is from Henry's buddies. All the usual guys, Stern, Adams, all these people that have corrupted the system entirely. And then you got Norman getting the national PAC money. And then you got Nancy getting the anti-Trump Rand Paul money. Every one of them. There's no one on that stage who is not. Alan Wilson is, of course, getting his PAC money from his trial lawyers. Every one of them, and it's an uphill battle because you have no idea who it is actually putting money in there. And then I don't know how this works, but in my business, every employee had to sign a letter that said, when in doubt, take the path of highest integrity. That was our motto. Here, there doesn't seem to be any such thing. If I put out an ad, it says at the bottom, because I pay for it myself, paid for by Ready for Governor. Here, they put out these secret PAC ads. We have no idea who it is. And now they've taken it to the next level. There's been 2 anonymous texts that go out. So they say, oh, yeah, he's got a foundation that donates money to art. I wouldn't know art if it hit me in the face, honestly. Our foundation for 20 years has been involved with reducing child trafficking and children's education. We're actually funding an education project in the Edgefield School District, and we funded multiple trafficking. I've actually committed, if I get elected, I won't take a salary. I don't want anything from the state. I'm going to donate my salary to child trafficking. And it is ugly what's happening here with trafficking. Top 25% in the nation for child trafficking. Yeah. And what happens? Do you know what happens here? First degree child assault against a child. It's 11 years or less. 11 to an infant is first degree. They say you get 25 years. These people are out in 2. and then they do it again. It's a 12% success rate. 88% of the time, they hurt another child. So as part of Doge SC, we had a plan. I'll get it done in year 1. We're going to modify it. We're nice guys, Charlie. We're going to give this criminal a choice that he did not have. He did not give the child. We're going to say, you're going to do every one of this 25 years, or a mandatory condition of parole is physical castration. These people cannot be cured. I've been working with it for 20 years. They are sick. They cannot be cured. Denmark does it. Czech Republic does it. Germany does it. 96% success rate. For our children, I'd take 96 over 12 every day of the week and twice on Sundays. We have to start making some tough decisions. We have to be we cannot be morally bankrupt, in my opinion.
You know, you talk about child traffickers, but crime in general, we see judges letting people off with just a slap on the wrist. How do we get tougher on crime here in South Carolina?
So our truth in sentencing laws are broken, and then you got to say, I always say, you know, what's the cause? Why? Part of the truth in sentencing laws broken is, do we know, do you know that we don't have a central database for collecting fingerprints? So if someone gets arrested here in your county over here, and they go tomorrow to Aiken County and commit a crime, the people in Aiken County have no idea. You know, you probably heard of Logan Federico.
Right,
This
yes.
22-year-old who showed up near University of South Carolina. Her dad came to one of my rallies. You know, they pull her out of bed, execute her, take her card, go shopping. This guy has 39 prior convictions. They went to the AG. They said, how did this happen? Well, the judge who let him off didn't know that he had a conviction in the other county. This is simple stuff. Ron DeSantis has it. He has it in Florida. Well, why can't we shamelessly copy some of these things? And Ron DeSantis is the best governor in the country, by the way, without a doubt, even though he's a very good friend of mine. And I worked with Casey's foundation quite a bit. My foundation has. But he's got some amazing stuff. We can fix these things and fix them quickly, very quickly. These people don't know how to get results, Charlie. They've never governed. Nancy Mace says, I'm number 2 in submitting bills. She submitted some more bills today. How many has she gotten passed? 0. In 3 terms, what's the one primary sponsor bill she has gotten done for this state? Renamed a post office in Hilton Head. That's it. Ralph Norman. He says they're not a career politician. Been there for 20 years. Nikki Haley, he endorsed Nikki Haley. She endorsed him back. He's been there for 20 years. What has he done for this state? 1 bill for which he was primary sponsor. Medal of Honor bill. That's it. Everything else, they're just like, no. Oh, get the president to call me. Oh, president, call him. Okay, now I'll sign it, now that the president called me. These people do not know how to govern. Trust me. The people know it. The people know it. The people know that they don't know how to govern. We're going to fix it.
One of the biggest concerns among families here in South Carolina is affordability, whether it's gas, food, housing. How do you fix that?
Well, this is a Democratic word. The Republicans have hijacked the word. So I would say as Republicans, at least let's stop using Democratic words. Affordability. Affordability. What's the guy's name? The guy with a speed limit IQ in Washington? Hakeem Jeffries. That's his word. Why do we copy Hakeem Jeffries' word? So affordability, 2 things have to happen. The government needs to stop spending. That's the #1 cause for inflation. When your spending has gone up by 100% over 10 years, your population has gone up 10% in that time. Local spending keeps pace and has also gone up 100%. Are you wondering where inflation's coming from? We're spending the money. The second thing we need to do is we need to take that money out of government's hands quickly, by the way. I like quickly. When we restructure, we do it, boom, not drip, drip, drip. We need to move that money back to the citizen, back into their pockets. We are over-collecting in this state. You just need to look at the numbers, do the math, we're over-collecting. And I'm very proficient with financial statements. I challenge anyone, including your viewers, to try to figure out the financial statement in this state. I'm a Wharton MBA, and it took me some while to figure it out. You know why? Evil resides in complexity. When we bought companies, and the financial statements were complicated, my team already knew it. They said, Ram's going to want us to uncomplicate it. Absolutely, I want you to uncomplicate it, because evil resides in complexity. This is so complex, they got a lot of bad stuff in there, and we're going to clear it up. I've actually got tools already done with Doge SC that simply goes in, where is the cash coming from and where is it going to? It'll tell me that in 2 days. You know, all these politicians, we're going to do an audit. What audit? Why didn't you already do it? You guys have been there for 55 years. Why didn't you do an audit? Because you don't know how. They don't know how. It's not that they don't want to, they don't know how. So we have the tools. We will get this done. I will not let the people down. They should know that.
You know, you see, like, they just passed $330 million worth of earmarks. We're looking at a orangutan enclosure, a home for artists to rest. Is there an appetite to reduce spending in Columbia?
Well, there's not a question of an appetite or not. They're going to have the appetite because, like I said, Charlie, you know how it works now? The governor throws a budget there. He says, hey, my budget is $14 billion. He has no idea what's in the budget. He has no clue. You know, he's trying to figure out which ribbon he's going to cut the next day. He has no clue. Pamela Yvette has even less of a clue. By the way, she sat here and she said, oh, I ran $1 billion company. That's also a lie. You know what a company is? It's a payroll processing company. They actually came and saw me in Springturf to solicit my business. I was too big for them, so we have our own payroll. So my payroll is $100 million, and I tell her to process it. She gets 0.5% or so for processing it, but she counts the entire $100 million as part of her company. What is that? That's not your money. That's not your pay. That's not your revenue. That's my payroll. But you counted. That's why you got $1 billion company. $1 billion company is not $1 billion company. It's another lie. It's a total lie. This is all BS. So we either going to have to stop buying this stuff, or we will never see improvements in the state.
Let's stay on that topic for a bit. You have proposed eliminating state income tax. How do we do that? And is there a way that we could eliminate some of the property tax as well?
So that's two different things. Income tax goes to the state. Property tax goes to local school districts and local municipalities. It doesn't go to the state. So it's two independent streams. So on the income tax, Ron DeSantis spends $2,340 last year less per citizen per year than we do in South Carolina. And he's got better roads, better schools, less crime, and no income tax. So we have a OPM. We're addicted to OPM. So we've set a target of reducing this spending to it as a starting point to $1,500, which still puts us higher than the Southeast average, by the way. And so we got a whole list of things. Bad news and good news. Some of the bad news is 35,000 jobs would have to be repurposed from the public sector to the private sector. Good news for the private sector, because we could use people. I mean, if you like your government job, you're not going to have it, because we have just blown it out of the water. So we have a whole list of things on how we're going to do it, how we're going to get these boards and commissions and all these things down. Higher education, listen, in any spending, there's discretionary and non-discretionary. Non-discretionary is stuff you need, jails, roads, whatever. Discretionary is all this other stuff. What is this stuff about higher education? To me, it's discretionary. You know, they had the Department of Commerce. There used to be $27 million in 2017, $371 million. What the heck are they doing in there? What the heck are they doing? I have no idea, but we're going to find out. We're going to clean up this whole mess. But the way to clean it up is we've got to bring it down. We can't manage 100 agencies. And every one of those 35 agencies has to come into a cabinet, which means you have to have a cabinet. So these people that have been there, my question is, they make you all these promises. Pamela said on your show, I think, I'm going to cut the tax in 100 days. Really? How? It's 40% of the revenue of the state. She has no clue. It just sounds good. And we got to stop buying all this stuff. We have specific things. We know you got to cut expense to cut taxes. A lot of my rallies, I go there, people say, well, if you cut the tax, what are you going to replace it with? I said, okay, let's say there's a two-income family, right? One of you decides to stay at home, so one income is gone. What do? You cut your expense. You don't say, oh, let me go find a girlfriend to replace my wife's income. This is what we've been programmed to think. One tax has to be replaced with another tax. You're wrong. The spending has to go, and these people do not know how to cut spending. That's my wheelhouse. I've done it my whole life. My last company, Charlie, just so you know, we bought a company that was doing 22 stadiums in 12 states for artificial turf. I took it to 270 stadiums annually in all 50 states. This is what we do. We bring transformational change, not because I'm the smartest guy in the room. I'm not. I'm a Christian. I do believe in that. I'm humble. I believe that there is only one person that's better than me, and that's God, right? We're all the same. We're all children of God. All of us believers are anyway. And so how do we do that? We bring people together. We lay out, leadership is having principles that you don't bend on, having specific actions that fit those principles, and then making sure you understand you're going to take incoming fire and you're ready for it, right? But I want to tell you something. This is how politicians believe in principles. They say, oh, I have principles. If you don't like them, I have others.
You talk about bringing people together. There is a lot of division in the State House. You seem to, I don't know if it's about a week or 10 days ago, you seem to blame the Freedom Caucus for the division in Columbia. Are they the problem, or is it the Republican caucus that is really holding things up?
Oh, I don't like all these caucuses. By the way, I love the Freedom Caucus. I think they're fantastic. Jordan Pace is a great patriot. I think he's a fantastic guy. I worked with him on judicial reform. I actually brought the Freedom Caucus in the room, the main caucus, the family caucus, and everyone. As you know, I got all 85 Republicans as a citizen to vote for my judicial reform bill. I don't know if you know that, but as a citizen, I got them to do it. I like a lot of the Freedom Caucus's philosophies are aligned with me. And they know that. They worked very closely with me. I certainly didn't blame them. There are some bad apples there, Adam Morgan being one, their leader, R.J. May, the child predator, being another.
Well, he's not their leader anymore.
He used to be their leader. And then you got some people who are dishonest. Now, so Joe White, he endorses Norman the day Norman announced in July. And then he writes all these columns as to why he couldn't support everyone else and makes up stuff. I don't like all that. Just be honest. Just say, hey, I endorse Norman, but, you know, these guys have some good and bad, whatever you want to say, but don't act like you considered other candidates. But I don't have any issues with the Freedom Caucus. I actually like the Freedom Caucus. I think the separation between the Freedom Caucus and the main caucus is very dangerous, and I'll tell you why. They don't even caucus together, Charlie.
Right.
They caucus separately. So what's going to happen is the main caucus is going to depend on the Democrats for support. And guess what happens? They start leaning to the blue.
Well, they've already done that.
They've already done that. And it's going to force them more and more in this direction because these guys are sitting over here in the corner not even caucusing. So all I wanted these people
Well,
to do...
they're not allowed to, though.
No,
they got kicked out of the caucus because they wouldn't sign the
16B.
Wouldn't sign the
16B.
the pledge.
Correct, the pledge. And we got that, I got that as a citizen. I've got everyone to agree that that pledge was put in there because of R.J. May, who was actually not only the leader, but was also a consultant
Right.
to all these people.
Yeah.
And that's why they put in that pledge. And so I got the main caucus to agree, Freedom Caucus, Jordan was in agreement with this, that they would not sign the 16B. It would be in the document, they wouldn't have to sign it. They would join the main caucus, and after 3 months, if things were working well, the 16B would be dropped. We actually had it in writing. There were 3 people in the Freedom Caucus, I won't name them because, like I said, I don't like division, who didn't want that. Why? These people have more power as a 15-person group. Most of the Freedom Caucus recognizes that they want to influence policy. They don't want to sit on the outside. They have great ideas. I love a lot of those guys. They're all big supporters of mine. So no, that's a misnomer. There's just some bad apples there Like there are bad apples in the main caucus.
Right.
The main caucus has a lot of Democrats who turned Republican because they couldn't get elected. So it's all this stuff, but it needs leadership to bring these people together. Get them in a room and say, here is our vision. We're going to get this done for the people. That's what they voted in. And if you don't, I will be in your district. I won't be wearing a pocket kerchief and sitting in my office with my motorcade. I will be in your district telling your people that you're a fraud. That's how we're going to do it.
All right.
If our listeners and viewers today, if you had them remember one thing about Ram Reddy and your campaign for governor, what would that one thing be?
The one thing is that I am not a politician. I'm in a completely separate lane. I do not take money from anyone whatsoever. And so if you want someone to be a voice for the voiceless, if you want someone to wake up and say, hey, he has no incentive to do anything else. I benefit in no way. I don't have any business interests. I'm not going to take any salary. I'm putting my own money. Why? Just ask yourself why without listening to all this dribble-drabble that these politicians throw out. Because I sometimes get emotional when I read that last line of the Declaration. These founders were prepared to die for this. They gave us a dream in this country. We were the only country in the world with rights that come from God. And why are we running away from this dream? And if we don't stand up and we don't have the courage to fight it and say, no, that's what made us the greatest country, that's what we're going to go back to, then shame on us.
You've mentioned Governor Ron DeSantis several times this afternoon. Would you be a governor that would make Florida jealous of us?
It is so funny you say that, because he called me after I announced and he said, what is your overall goal in South Carolina? Just help me understand that. I just stopped for a second and I said, Governor, to leave you in the dust. And he just started laughing. He said, I should have known that. Yeah, he and I know each other very well, and I'm actually, my wife and I are also very good friends with Casey. And they're fantastic people. What you see, he's one of the few politicians, what you see of him in private is the exact same person he is in public. And that's why I connect with him, because that's how I feel I am. You're not going to see one person in public, another person in private.
What does South Carolina look like after the first 4 years of a Reddy administration?
I think what South Carolina looks like is you're going to have a citizen that's much more powerful. They're not going to feel like their government rules their lives. I'm going to get government to get up from the other side of the table, where they are now, and come and sit on this side of the table. And they're going to have money in their pocket, because the money is going to come sucking out of the government. It needs to be in a big way, and it's going to be in their pocket. I think it's going to be revolutionary, honestly. And I simply tell people this: what have you got to lose? Nothing's changed in your life for, I don't know, a decade, maybe 2 decades. What do you have to lose? Are you really going to say that you're going to keep putting these people, another good guy I love very much, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana, he said, keep doing what you've always done, and you'll keep getting what you always got. And it's very true in South Carolina. How long are we going to keep doing this, Charlie?
Yep. How long? We've been doing it quite long enough. Ram Reddy, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. The primaries are going to be June 9th. Everybody needs to get out and vote. Change does not happen with a 13.5% voter turnout, so everybody get out there and vote in the upcoming primaries again on June 9th. And we appreciate you being on the program. I want to thank all of our candidates who have joined us here on the Governor's Forum. This has been the Governor's Forum, the Governor's Series, right here on News Talk 98.9 WORD, brought to you by Gosling Electrical. I'm Charlie James, along with Joey Hudson and Ram Reddy. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Stay informed. Make your voice count in the upcoming South Carolina primary, Tuesday, June 9th. Thanks for listening to News Talk 98.9 WORD's Governor Series.